the Angel Reese special at McDonald's now. Let's break it down. My favorite barbecue sauce, American cheese, crispy bacon, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun, of course. And don't forget the fries and a drink. Sound good? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating restaurants for a limited time.
Exclusively on ESPN Plus, UFC 313, Saturday. Reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira defends his title against number one contender Magomed Ankalaev, and an explosive lightweight bout between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev. UFC 313, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
Welcome to Dear Prudence. I am your guest, Prudence Kristen Meinzer. I host a couple of other podcasts, including By the Book and How to Be Fine. Be sure to check those out if you love self-help books, hate self-help books, or want advice on how to be okay-ish rather than perfect. Today, we'll be answering questions about feeling conflicted over an ex living their best life post-divorce, navigating a friendship after someone breaks the other's trust, and asking for financial help. Here to help me out is the one, the only, Crystal Kung Minkoff. Fans of the Bravo cinematic universe know her as the first ever Asian American cast member of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Oh my gosh, Crystal, we are so thrilled to have you here today, but I should also mention that's not all you are. You're also the host of a new hit podcast, Humble Brag, with fellow housewife Cynthia Bailey. And of course, you are the co-founder and CEO of Real Cocoa Coconut Water, Delish. Crystal, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, before we get started, we like to ask all of our guests for one piece of advice, just, off the top of your head, something that might apply to most of our listeners. And it could be big, it could be small.
Okay, so I was thinking just in reference of housewives and ultimately why I'm here is you really can't people please. You just have to be okay with yourself and the rest will fall into place. That's something I learned, and I learned the hard way on a show like this. But I've always spent my whole life trying to make sure others are okay. And that intention always is there, but you can't lose yourself during that process. So that would be my advice.
That is such a great piece of advice. And I got to be honest with you, it took me way too long to apply that to my own life. I kind of knew that was the case. My grandmother told me that. Psychologists told me that over the years. I think it just took enough years of practice to finally get to the point where, you know what? I can't make everybody happy. It's okay.
Yeah.
Let's start with me.
That's what it is. It's okay.
Yeah. It's going to be fine. It's not going to be the end of the world if I don't please everybody here.
Right.
That is such great advice. All right, Crystal, we are going to take a very quick break. But when we're back, oh my gosh, I am so excited to dive into some of these letters with you.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices, and that's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies, so you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Get the Angel Reese special at McDonald's now. Let's break it down. My favorite barbecue sauce, American cheese, crispy bacon, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun, of course. And don't forget the fries and a drink. Sound good? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating restaurants for a limited time.
Welcome back. You're listening to Dear Prudence. I'm Kristen Meinzer, and I am here with Crystal Kung Minkoff. Let's get started with our first letter titled, Maybe I Was the Problem.
I
got divorced early last year. My wife Beth and I got on well in general, but a long fertility battle, both of us were to blame in the end, and associated stressors like money, work, and parental involvement left us just exhausted with our relationship. We still cared about each other a lot, and we were able to make the split relatively amicable. We both agreed that it wasn't really about either of us. We just hit a bad run of road and did not have the sense to turn back in time. The only thing is that nearly a year on, Beth seems to be really happy. Happier than I ever remember her being. In fact, it could be said she's living her best life ever since she left me. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. Friends we have in common have also commented with surprise on how well she's doing. I'm mostly glad about that, but meanwhile, I'm still a sad sack with a side hustle and moping. It makes me wonder if maybe I was the problem and just couldn't see it. The thing is, I don't know how to work out the answer. Beth and I parted ways on good terms. We're courteous if we cross paths, but we agreed not to try and be friends or drag it out. Asking her to relitigate the divorce and the reasons behind it now definitely oversteps that boundary, especially since I'm the only one who'd benefit. After all, if there was anything she wanted to tell me, she would have told me when we were still eating breakfast together.
Oof. Crystal.
That's really hard.
We have all been through breakups. I've been through some painful ones. I'm guessing you have as well. Sometimes it's hard to get over that breakup, but we've got to do it. What bits of advice do you have, Crystal, to help this letter writer get over this breakup?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I have been with my husband for 22 years. And so I met him quite young. I met him when I was 20. So I've actually only had a few relationships prior, but I've gone through, as I get older, a lot of my friends are starting to break up. You start seeing it, in preschool, and the kids are in preschool, and it's just sort of increasing now. And I'm watching my friends struggle watching their partners or ex-partners with someone else. And I'll say that for me, I find that when they start to find their own happiness, that like meeting someone or really spending more time working on themselves, that the ex becomes less important. I do think that we're in an age of social media, which is very challenging. I think, doing your best to like avoid seeing the other person if they can. I mean, it sounds like this writer, they don't have kids. That was, the issue. So it's not like you have to be connected in that way. But it just takes time. I remember someone had said to me when I was younger, it takes half the amount of time of a relationship to fully get over it. So I always found that very interesting. The longer you're with someone, how long. And I think it's also just accepting that it's going to be hard as opposed to fighting it so much, ignoring it and saying like, this is too painful for me. I think to accept the pain, and I think that to understand that this is part of the process.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. I think accepting your situation is half the battle.
Yes.
And I think the rest will fall into place. But it's normal. To feel like it's normal is okay.
Oh, Crystal, I agree with you on so many points there. One of the things I really want to dig in deeper with, you mentioned social media. Our letter writer is saying, my ex seems to be happier than ever. Well, how are you getting that impression? If it's from social media, please stop following this ex right now. Do not be following your exes on social media. If you're getting this intel exclusively from your shared friends, let your shared friends know, I don't need updates anymore on the ex. Please, let's make that a non-topic when we're together. Let's celebrate our friendship and our time together and other things, but this is not
I think
productive
those boundaries are really important.
Yeah, it's not productive. If you, letter writer, are the one who's asking for updates on your ex, stop that right now. Your ex is your ex. It's time to leave that in the past.
And I also think social media is designed to create a narrative that doesn't necessarily exist. That's why filters exist. It's literally designed to create FOMO for other people. And you can't trust that.
Yeah.
So I think just trying to avoid that. And like you said, don't follow, ask your friends not to share. It's about creating boundaries, create your space. And when you're ready, you'll know. But if you're feeling these feelings, then you're not ready. You're not there yet.
Yeah. And it's okay if it's going to take a little while to work through that pain. But I think one thing that's not going to help you work through that pain anymore is trying to find more answers from your ex. You and your ex already had your conversations. You already had your breakup. You already had your time with your attorneys. Things are done now, and it's time to accept that. I think a lot of us are told we must have closure to move forward. Well, that's not enough closure. I need even more closure. Well, that's not the kind of closure I want. I need additional closure. And I'm just going to say something I've said on the show before. The closure is that you're now no longer together, okay? And sometimes we just have to accept that that's that. You already came up with a narrative with each other about why you're not together. You don't need to start coming up with new narratives now. Oh, she never liked me in the first place. Oh, she always was going to be happier without me. this is not productive. Please stop going down that path. Instead, go down the path of what's going to make you happy, letter writer.
Right.
What fills you with joy? What lights up your heart? What, makes you geek out right now?
What I found interesting is like the opening of the letter was maybe it was my fault or something like that. And I initially thought, oh, wow, there's a lot of accountability. Like, I like that. I thought that was an interesting way to start. And then listening to the story, it ended with, maybe I'm the problem. And there's too much blame. And when you look, like you were saying, lean into the positivity. Well, maybe this person wasn't right for me. This is my chance now to find someone that might be a better fit, that I might be happier with. But the writer is kind of living in a very negative space, and that energy is creating a lot more negativity.
And letter writer, I know this might sound tough right now, but please just focus on yourself right now. Not yourself as victim, not yourself as a villain, but yourself as somebody who can be happy again. As we both have said, lean on your friends, lean on your hobbies, find new exciting things. Look forward. I think you're doing a lot of not productive looking backward right now, but there's a whole better world for you out there. I can say as somebody who is so thrilled that I had all the breakups I did because now I'm with my husband. I'm so glad I'm with my husband and not any of those people. And that doesn't mean those other people were terrible, but some relationships have a shelf life. Some things age like milk. Some things age like wine. Some things are only supposed to last so long, and that's totally fine.
Yeah. Majority of relationships have a shelf life.
Most of them do, yes.
And hopefully all of them teach you a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And letter writer, if this is something that you feel like, despite all of your best efforts, despite leaning on your friends, despite going out there and trying to meet new people, if you're finding this to be something that's agonizing every single day and you just can't get over it, I highly recommend going to a therapist, getting help there. Therapy is great. I've done a lot of therapy in my life, and this might be a case of a therapist can help give you actual assignments to help you move through this so that you can get to the other side. All right, our next question is titled, Faltering Friend.
I've been struggling with a friendship and am not sure how to move forward, or if I even want to. I met this friend about a decade ago, and in the years since, I've come to really love her. We both haven't had an easy time, and I see a lot of myself in her as a person who has had a difficult upbringing and has often felt misunderstood. When I met her, she was being phased out by some of her friends, and I couldn't understand why, because she is truly such a sweet person at her core. And I tried to support her and deepen our friendship at the same time. Since then, we've become much closer and have lived in the same city for the better part of a decade. We see each other often. She knows my partner and all my friends, even those who did not attend college with us. Recently, I found out she has been annoyed with me for backing out of a group activity and has been telling people behind my back in an attempt to criticize me that she thinks I'm an alcoholic and that my partner agrees with her. The thing is, my partner never said that, and I believe her and have absolutely no reason not to. This friend has a track record of escalating conflicts and making them more personal than they need to be, and I've been the friend in which she confides her criticism about other shared friends that I know are either untrue or exaggerated, including unfounded allegations of alcoholism directed at other people in our circle. It's especially strange to me because she herself has been battling addiction in recent years and has been in sobriety from alcohol for some time after a serious medical emergency necessitated she stop drinking. I don't understand why she'd throw around alcoholism as a criticism after how much pain she's experienced as a result. And I have the feeling that if she truly believed I was struggling, she would have come to me to express concern, rather than tossing it around behind my back to put me down. Or at least I hope she would. But I suspect she doesn't really feel concerned, because I simply am not an alcoholic. When I met her, I was a college student dealing with some severe, untreated trauma and emerging mental health issues, and I self-medicated. Not that it's abnormal for college students to drink more than is recommended, especially at the party school we attended. But now we're in our 30s, and I've had years of therapy, processing, and troubleshooting my medications. I am no longer in that place. In recent years, I lost a parent prematurely and struggled with mental health episodes, but I have worked so hard to come back from these setbacks and heal, even doing an intensive outpatient program to tackle root causes. It hurts that she's not just undermining the work I've done to find stability and peace, but also that she's willing to risk my relationship while doing so. This is my first relationship to last as long as it has, in part because through the therapy and healing I've done, I was finally able to come out as gay and live a more authentic life. She knows this, and she knows my partner well enough that I am surprised she would involve her like this. The problem is, I know she's struggling. I have so much compassion for her. I don't want her to feel any more isolated than she already does, and I know that she's grown more distant from other friends over the years. I've often defended her to mutual friends when she has said something particularly cruel about them, because I truly believe it's coming from a place of hurt rather than malice. Yet, I cannot seem to apply the same reasoning to my own situation. I am just so hurt, and am in a phase in my life where I want to protect my emotional well-being, having fought so hard to attain it. I work full-time in a field that is very rewarding, but also very triggering. And on top of that, I'm a full-time student. I neither have the time nor the mental energy to defend myself from accusations that I know aren't true, and I'm not sure the friendship is worth saving if this is how she sees me. It's almost as if a veil has been lifted, showing me how she truly feels about me, and I can never unsee it. I do really care for her, but I'm not sure I have room for this much heartache right now. At the same time, I feel guilty abandoning her when she herself is struggling. Can this friendship be salvaged? Is it okay for me to not want to do the work to salvage it? Am I a bad person if I step back or let the friendship go entirely? And do I have to explain my reasoning to her? She doesn't know that I know what she's been saying, and I'd rather not have that conversation, as cowardly as that feels to say, because I know it's going to come with a lot of emotional upheaval. I feel so lost and conflicted.
Crystal.
That's intense.
It's intense, and I feel like you, as a Real Housewife, are the perfect person to deal with this question with me.
I've gone through very similar experiences with this woman, the writer, and different iterations of it. So I would say, first, there are people who are people that provide energy, and there's also energy vampires in friendships. And I would say, listening to this question, and you asked me the question when we first started, like what, some advice. I would say the person I was before would spend so much time and energy trying to be helpful, being a best friend, being a therapist, being a guide, and really, because I would think that was the right thing to do. It really came from like an altruistic place. But now that I'm on this side of it, I think that stepping away and creating hard boundaries is the only way that you can actually be a really good friend. Because if you allow yourself to sort of fall into her energy, your friend's energy, then they'll continue to keep sucking that out. And it becomes a very negative, toxic friendship. And I'm really not into that anymore. I just think it's very unhealthy. And I think when you yourself can create boundaries, the other person will benefit, because they might just start to think, oh, wait, why are they pulling back? And maybe that will help them in time start to see, their part in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely to all of that. And letter writer, you asked outright, and I'm going to say it outright, wanting to pull back does not make you a bad person. If you want to step back, that is a healthy thing. It's not a bad thing. It does not categorically make you the kind of person who's a bad friend to everybody. It means you're taking care of yourself. And frankly, it means you're taking better care of your other friendships. Your friends have come to you and said, this particular friend has been hurtful, has said terrible things about them. And you have, not intentionally, but you've kind of dismissed those friends and said, no, she's got a good heart. Oh, I know she hurt your feelings, but it wasn't on purpose. It's because of her own insecurity. It's because of her own pain. And the fact is, it doesn't matter what the reason is that we're hurtful to other people. It can be because of malice, or it can be because of insecurity. But if we're hurting other people, we're hurting other people. The reason doesn't really matter. We're still doing it. And you have now realized you don't want to be in that position anymore of defending this person. Now that you've been the target of things, you realize, oh, it actually hurts quite a bit to be the target of this friend. And you can distance yourself. That's totally fine. It's totally fine.
I actually think that's being a good friend.
Yes.
To be honest, I think if you continually engage with someone like this at 100% at this level, you're allowing the person to keep perpetuating their own how they're feeling, and they're calling everybody and they're doing these things. And I think that the first person that can stop it is the writer, is creating those boundaries, because it's very unhealthy for anyone to like have a relationship like that.
Yeah.
And it perpetuates in your own life. And then you end up becoming sort of a scapegoat, and it can just get really negative. And I have worked very hard to get toxic energy out of my life, toxic friends.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that they're going through something right now. So you don't need to abandon someone, and you don't need to make it a very public thing. I actually don't believe it. I think saying to someone like, I need boundaries from you, I need to step away, I don't know if that's really helpful. I just think pulling away slightly, little by little, if they're sort of spiraling, not engaging with that as much, I think protecting your peace is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And as you step away a little bit, as you give yourself more space, it may eventually happen that this friend reaches out to you and asks for clarification. And you can say at that point, if you want to, that you're focusing on your own mental health right now. You're prioritizing that. That's what you said in your letter to us. You've maybe realized you often have an unhealthy dynamic with this friend, and maybe you can say that you find yourself giving her the benefit of the doubt too often while dismissing your own hurt or other friends' hurt, and you need to work on yourself and your own patterns. That way it's not making it about that friend necessarily, but also kind of telling your friend what she's been doing at the same time.
I totally agree. I think being asked that question, being direct and honest with the intention of it being healing as opposed to negative is really important, because it's not fair to the other person if you pull back with not knowing anything. But I don't think it needs to be some big conversation. I think it could be slow and steady, and but if your friend asks you, I think being direct is super important.
Yeah. I think all of that is true. And also just a little bit of encouragement here. If it turns out that in the end you can't be friends with this person anymore, I just want to encourage you to make peace with that. The majority of humans have been through friend breakups, even though it's not something we talk about a lot. We talk a lot about romantic breakups in our culture, but friend breakups are incredibly common. Over half of people have gone through them. On one of my other shows, How to Be Fine, we have multiple episodes dedicated just to this topic. You're not alone in this. I've had painful friend breakups, and some of them took years to get over. But in the long run, I realized those friend breakups had to happen because I was not prioritizing my own health over trying to be the good guy. I was always trying to make everybody else happy, and in the end, I was making nobody else happy, especially myself. So, letter writer, take care of yourself here. Please do. You have our permission. All right. It is time for us to take a quick break, but when we're back, more of your Dear Prudence letters. Stay with us.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality bikes, which might lead to another discovery. Getting back on the saddle isn't always comfortable. Good news is Sierra has massage guns. And chafe wipes, too. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Your data is like gold to hackers. They're selling your passwords, bank details, and private messages. McAfee helps stop them. Secure VPN keeps your online activity private. AI-powered text scam detector spots phishing attempts instantly. And with award-winning antivirus, you get top-tier hacker protection. Plus, you'll get up to $2 million in identity theft coverage, all for just $39.99 for your first year. Visit McAfee.com. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Welcome back to Dear Prudence. I'm Kristen Meinzer, and I am here with my guest, Crystal Kung Minkoff, to answer your letters. The next one is titled, Awkward About Money.
I need advice on how to ask my father's siblings for financial support. Earlier this year, my father suffered a stroke. He is now in long-term care indefinitely and not within close proximity to any of his relatives. I've hired a caregiver to visit him for a couple of hours once a week to check in on him and assist with making phone calls, shaving, and other things that the staff at the facility do not have the time to do. I'm also paying for his cell phone and for a storage unit for his belongings. This is costing me around $500 a month. It is not an excessive burden, but it would be nice to have a little help. My father has 3 older siblings. Is it appropriate for me to ask them to chip in?
Ooh, I, first of all, letter writer, want to say to you, you're being a great kid here, being a caretaker for an aging parent or for any family member who is going through a tough time with their health. It is incredibly rewarding in some ways, but incredibly thankless and exhausting in others. So you're being great here. I just want to say that first and foremost. I just don't think caregivers get enough credit. Second of all, let's get to your question here. Asking for financial assistance from other members of the family. I'm going to say first and foremost, what do you know about those other members of the family? Do you know that they are financially secure? Do you know they're financially well off? I would assess that first. And then let's say that maybe they do have the ability to offer some support. Would you, Crystal, then ask them to chip in a little bit? What would you do?
Well, actually, my first thought was, are the people they're asking financially viable to support?
Yes.
Right? I
Yes.
think that's the first thing. You can't ask someone who's too uncomfortable if they can't.
Yes.
My father struggled with Alzheimer's for 9 years, and my mom and I were the primary caretakers, and it's a huge financial burden, emotionally, and just it's a lot. So I understand the want and need to ask for additional help. I think it depends on the relationship of your family. I come from a very tight Chinese family that you don't want to ask, but everyone tends to offer. So I've never really been in a position to have to ask, but I do think that if they feel close to their aunts and uncles, that they can just let them know without any pressure. Say, this is my situation right now. These are the added costs. And it would be really helpful if maybe you guys could take over one thing as opposed to just maybe a specific number, saying these are the things that are, adding up, like a phone. Like, is there a chance that you might be able to add him to like a family plan or something? Finding ways to cut those costs down, but without being asking for a specific amount if that's what the writer is uncomfortable with. I think it's certainly okay to ask, but under the guise of just there's no pressure. And I think that's if you give them the out, a true out, without feeling bad or guilty, I actually think it's okay.
Yeah. I agree with you. And again, I think you and I are on the same page. First, just assess what the financial situation is of these family members. And assessing that may take more than just scratching the surface. It may take, learning a little bit more, because sometimes, again, on social media, they may present themselves one way, but maybe they're really pinching every penny at home because they need it. So find that out. And then, I love the idea of, can you maybe add dad to your family plan? Other things that these other family members might be able to do, maybe take all of those items out of storage and put them in their own homes or their garage or something like that to save on those costs. I think storage is one of those things that it's just, I hate the idea of paying for storage. I just hate it so much. And if there is a way around it, a lot of us have space where we can put those things somewhere else. I live in a small New York apartment. We have a little storage space in our basement, and that's where we put everything. Some of our neighbors also have an external storage unit they pay for, but I say, no, I refuse. I am not going to pay for a storage unit.
But by the way, I think like the storage thing you're saying is that it brings up for me, having a conversation, saying like, look, these are the costs and their storage, like asking them for help. What do you think I should do? How do you think I can cut these costs of dad, and because I'm struggling here, and letting the family members respond, and maybe they have ideas.
Yeah.
That's an open conversation for them to give you money, or saying, you know what, why don't I help you with the storage units? Let's take those down. Let's start taking the stuff out.
Yes.
I think that would be a great way to start, because you're just asking for general help, and that should open up conversation with them in ways that they can help you back.
Yeah, yeah. And the help can come in a lot of forms. It can come in the ways we've already mentioned, but it may also be worth investigating what your city, your county, and your state have to offer. Right now, a lot of cities, states, and municipalities have assistance for caregiving, highly subsidized through Medicare, through Medicaid, through other programs. So if you haven't already, I would encourage you to try and exhaust those resources too, to make sure you're getting all the help that is available through the systems that exist before tapping into other people in the family or otherwise. Use everything that's available to you, all those resources first. So yeah, I think it's kind of a multi-pronged approach. These open conversations, using what's out there, and being open to the help being not necessarily in a dollar amount, but in some other form. Okay, well, those are all the questions we have for this week. As always, it's been so fun and hopefully helpful for you listeners. Crystal, thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you for having me. I love this. This is great.
Ugh, you're so good at this. You're great at it. Can you remind our listeners of where they can find more of you?
Yeah, so you can listen on all platforms where you hear any of your podcasts. It's called Humble Brag with Crystal and Cynthia. And we actually answer listener questions as well. And it's been really fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's been so great. And listeners, you can find more of me on the podcast By the Book and also the podcast How to Be Fine. So, are you out there listening right now and thinking maybe you also need some help getting along with partners, relatives, coworkers, and people in general? If so, write to Prudie. We would love to hear from you. Go to slate.com/Prudie. No question is too big or too small. That's slate.com/PRUDIE. The Dear Prudence column is published every Thursday. Dear Prudence was produced this week by Vic Whitley-Berry and Maura Currie, with editorial help from Paola De Verona. Daisy Rosario is senior supervising producer, and Slate's editor-in-chief is Hillary Frey. And I'm your guest, Prudence Kristen Meinzer. That's all for this episode, but join us on today's episode of Prudie Plus, where Crystal and I answer a bonus question about dealing with the fallout of kicking your sister out of the house. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts by clicking Try Free at the top of our show page, or visit slate.com/Prudie Plus to get access wherever you listen. The episode is available for you to listen to right now. We'll see you over there.
Get the Angel Reese special at McDonald's now. Let's break it down. My favorite barbecue sauce, American cheese, crispy bacon, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun, of course. And don't forget the fries and a drink. Sound good? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating restaurants for a limited time.